Hello, beautiful humans, and welcome to the Mental Wellness Wake Up Show. I am your host, Dawn McMillan, the spiritual psychotherapist, and I am bringing you tips, tools, and techniques from both spirituality and psychology so we can all create lasting well being. Thanks for being here. So, as I was preparing for this episode today, I was drawn to a book, a spiritual book and the idea of transference. Now, if you are not familiar with the idea of transference, which most people are, but let's review. The idea is that when you are engaged in a psychotherapeutic relationship, often the patient, the client, will transfer their feelings about other people onto the therapist. And in some disciplines, that's done intentionally. The idea being that you want the client to bring their beliefs, attitudes, and behaviors about important others in their lives, specifically their caregivers in a lot of traditions, so that when they project that experience and those feelings onto you, you can work them out in the therapeutic relationship and then ultimately heal those relationships. So that's the idea of transference. It's when you, as a client or a patient, are transferring your attitudes towards authority, for example, onto your practitioner. Countertransference is when the therapist is transferring onto the client some of their other relationships that might have been complicated in the past. So, for example, if I had a really difficult relationship with my mother and someone walks in who reminds me of her, rather than seeing the individual in front of me and keeping that appropriate dynamic, I might then start to treat that person the same way I would as my mother. I might read into what she's saying or become short tempered with her. All right, so that is countertransference and transference. So what? So what? Well, the book that came to me was Living the Science of Mind, which is a book based on the writings of Ernest Holmes. And being in the spiritual realm, it's going to have a slightly different focus than a pure psychotherapeutic point of view. What that ends up looking like is a gentle but firm reminder that transference can show up elsewhere. Transference can show up in any of our relationships. Often in pop culture, we'll talk about projection, and that's where you take what's going on inside of you and you accuse other people of having that. So if I'm a habitual cheater, like I promise to be in a monogamous relationship, but actually am having side relationships the whole time, then I'm going to come home and look at my partner and be like, you're cheating on me. Meanwhile, they're minding their own business. Projection is also, why are people so selfish when what you are struggling with yourself is that people are selfish? Caveat. Sometimes we are observing things in other people that are in other people. And sometimes, especially those things that are very, very charged, what we are doing is projecting onto other people or transferring. So let's say one of my childhood traumas is that my brother always got more freedom than I did because I grew up in a traditional family where boys get to do whatever they want and girls stay home and take care of the house. So that's just something that I'm carrying around with me. So then I go into my job and I have a male coworker. Now, I may start to resent my male coworker based on all the privileges that he has, which he may or may not actually have. So, being aware of our ability to transfer from one person to another feelings, experiences, thoughts, beliefs, and behaviors that aren't properly theirs. That's so important because we can also do it in a way that gives us the wrong impression of someone in a positive way. So, for example, if every woman I have ever met named Diana is really kind and generous, then I may project onto the next woman I meet named Diana that she is really kind and generous. Well, maybe this Diana is a con artist. Maybe this Diana is actually a cranky, mean, so and so, but I don't see her. I don't see the real her. I don't see who she's showing up as because I have projected, transferred all of my preconceived notions onto this person based on my own internal experience. So, why is this dangerous? Anytime we're not perceiving what is, we're not able to respond appropriately to what is actually going on. We've all seen that situation where there's something minor that happens and someone flies off the handle. Well, it's because they're not responding to what happened. They're responding to the story in their minds about what happened. I mean, that's always true. And it may be the case that they have projected onto this situation or transferred onto this person a long line of history that really isn't related to this person. One of the hardest things about having these conversations around transference and projection is that this conversation can get weaponized very easily. People who are aware of this concept can sometimes use it against you because they will do a behavior that you want to set a boundary around and they will respond with, well, don't blame me for how your ex treated you. I'm just over here doing blah, 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 blah. When in fact, their behavior is actually objectionable. It's objectionable because of their behavior and how it affects you in the moment, in the present, and not because someone else in your life also behaved that way. So we don't want to weaponize these concepts to hurt other people or ourselves. We do want to get into our awareness when we're having a particular charge on someone, either super positive or super negative. Is what I am feeling and perceiving about this person actually happening here and now with this person? Or are they triggering in me a set of responses that I learned somewhere else with someone else? It's kind of how we get to have a type sometimes. And if you find yourself repeatedly interacting romantically with the same kind of person, either physically or, it's like, huh, that's so weird. All the guys I've dated in the last 6 years have had their first initial BD or something weird like that. Just look at it. Just look at it and wonder, is there something here worth exploring more deeply? Is there something I need to look at? Is there something about this person that I'm creating up full cloth, wholesale in my own head? Am I transferring experiences that have happened with someone else at some other time onto them? Or am I perceiving this person in this moment accurately? There's a quote that says, we don't see the world as it is, we see the world as we are. And there's a lot of truth to that. So we really want to be careful when we are activated by someone or something to get super still and super curious and ask the question, what is this? What is this? Why is this person getting under my skin so easily, so quickly, so emphatically? Is there something going on in this moment that is appropriate to the response that I'm having for them? Or are my programs getting triggered? Are my buttons getting pushed? And what can I do to make those buttons a little less reactive or smaller, or whatever analogy that you want to create? We cannot be truly free unless and until we are no longer projecting and transferring things that are not there. When we perceive the truth, when we perceive people, places, and things as accurately as we possibly can, we make so much better decisions. When we notice the red flags on the first date, we don't find ourselves on our wedding day with cold feet and, running off into the sunset screaming. When we perceive the people, places, and things around us accurately, we engage with them more fully. If I'm projecting onto you, there's going to be a part of you that feels unseen, unheard, ununderstood, unappreciated, because there's this wall between us called my projection onto you. In this course that I was just doing with Jeffrey Allen, he talks about how on the outside of our aura, and the aura is sort of the energy field that surrounds you, that's where people see our reputation, right? Sort of like the little pictures on the outside around us that we're projecting. It is one thing to project out into the world what you hope they perceive about you, and we all do it, and not just on social media. It's another thing to project onto other people things that they did not invite or ask for. In some senses, isn't that what bigotry is? I see what country you came from and I project, I transfer onto you everything that I have been led to believe by some sort of biased news source or, uh, oh, I'm trying to be very careful here not to get too political. I start to projecting onto you all of the stereotypes that I have about people like you, right? So I find out that you're from France and I'm like, oh, you must be a snob. So I start treating you like you're a snob. Meanwhile, there you are minding your own business, being a full human being with a whole life and points of view and experiences and thoughts. And I'm responding to you based on my stereotype of snob. Oh, French people are all snobs. And so how does that make you respond to me? First of all, you're not going to feel a good connection with me because I'm not seeing you. And then if I'm treating you according to my inner images, there's going to be a disconnect between us. So if we really want to connect with other people, we need to see them, not our transference onto them, not our projections onto them. And if people really want to have a connection with us, they need to see us, not their projections onto us. And unless and until we are able to experience people, places, and things as they are in this moment, we're enslaved to our past. I know that's a strong word, and I use it very intentionally because what's happening is rather than being engaged in my life as it is, I am running the programs that came from 1987, not necessarily chosen by me, and I am not an autonomous being choosing for myself. I am operating on a program. So this is why transference and projection are so dangerous. Transference because we're not seeing the person as they are and we're responding to a false image. Projection because we start to blame other people or accuse other people of what's true inside of us. And as long as we're not taking a look at where it truly is, we're not fixing it. So if we're a dishonest person and we're projecting dishonesty onto the world, we're going to behave in ways that, first of all, evoke dishonesty from other people because we're acting shady and they're going to act shady back at us. And then our world's going to get more and more and more and more dishonest because we are not solving the right problem. We're trying to figure out how to make other people change when the problem is that we're the one who's being dishonest. I want to harken back to the warning that I had about weaponizing these concepts. Pop psychology and popular psychology turns into sound bites and simple ideas, and that's just the nature of things. We don't all have the time to deep dive into everything that we ever hear. So that's just the nature of being a human on the planet. I just want to make sure that we don't choose to weaponize against someone else, right? Someone comes and says, hey, you really hurt my feelings when you did X, Y, and Z. I thought it was rude, actually. I'm like, oh, you're just projecting onto me. We can get into a whole nother conversation about the 4 agreements, and maybe we will, where everything that happens is really about ourselves and not other people. That's a different level of conversation than we're having right now. The conversation we're having right now is if we are deeply activated by someone else or something else, just explore, wonder, I wonder why I'm responding so intensely to Paul, whom I just met, and all I know about him is his first name and that he was moved here from France. That's interesting. And you may find out that your response is actually your deep intuition about actual Paul. Often, however, you may find out that what you're doing is responding to a cliche, a stereotype, a program in your mind about what he represents. So I just invite you in this moment to take a big deep breath in and hold it and just sigh it out and give yourself permission to know. We all perceive differently. Some of us have a sense of knowing, a gut feeling, and our intuition shows up in many different ways. Using the parts of you that know how, can you allow yourself to notice, first of all, when transference, countertransference, or projection might be present? And second of all, give yourself permission to know what it is and what to do about it. How might that be? Sounds good to me. And hopefully that sounds good to you. I think people like us who are interested in mental health and mental wellness and spirituality really are wanting that level of freedom, that peace that surpasseth peace of mind, that sense of stillness. We look at someone like His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the joy, or Bishop Desmond Tutu, and the light that they have in their eyes, and we're like, I'll have what they're having. And this is how you get it. Piece by piece, step by step, question by question, knowing by knowing, willingness by willingness. So look around and notice where you might be being reactive based on your programs. Be super kind to yourself. We all do it. It's how our brains are made. And then just wonder, what if I could let this go? Could I let this go? When? Now seems good. Some of you might recognize that as a riff on the Sedona method, right? But so many of our methods come down to questions and the willingness to let go. What transferences, countertransferences, and projections are you letting go of this week? And with that, may I have the honor of reminding you that you, right here, right now, truly are whole, perfect, and complete just the way you are. And you are worthy and deserving of all the good things. Thank you for listening. Until next time. If any part of this pinged with you, I would be so grateful if you could like on whatever platform you're on, especially iTunes. That really makes a big difference. And then share this with at least one other person who might benefit from it. This channel is also on YouTube. So if you prefer to listen to your podcasts on YouTube, I know that sounds weird, but a lot of people do. I, for myself, have found some really great podcasts on YouTube, which is a visual medium, but I digress. Please like, subscribe, and share. It means so much to me. And for those of you who have reached out to me to let me know which episodes have really been meaningful for you and helpful to you, first of all, thank you for listening. Second of all, so grateful. So grateful. You can find me on most of the socials at the Dawn McMillan. All right. Bye.